Hello, folks. Kirby Obsidian here. The question I have right now is what is it going to take for Republicans to challenge Trump or distance themselves from him? Over the last couple of days, he has made just some absolutely ridiculous statements. And, the height of that is the message he sent to the Prime Minister of Norway saying that, oh, well, you all didn't give me the Nobel Peace Prize, and therefore I'm going to now conduct my foreign policy in a different way. Like, how absurdly childish and insane is that? And and so I go to Fox News and I'm reading this and that on Fox, and I'm listening to some of their commentators. Not a peep. Um, and there was a time, actually any time up until Donald Trump, where Republicans, especially, Republican politicians, especially, would if someone said something that was inappropriate, oh my God, they're all over it. This person should resign. This person should face charges. We condemn this. We all just up and down. And, a test I often give to myself if I'm not sure of how I'm reacting to something some member of the opposition does or says is I pretend to myself, okay, what if someone on my side said it? So it's like, what if Obama said something like that? Well, I wasn't praised enough. I didn't get such and such a prize, and therefore this is going to affect how I conduct foreign policy. Oh my God. Republicans would have been falling all over themselves to get to the mic first to condemn him and to call for his impeachment. Now, I recognize it's way harder to criticize one of your own than one of the opposition because you want your side to stick together. There's a certain amount of cohesion you want. You want a certain amount of loyalty, but that should only go so far. Trump is not only eroding our internal democracy, but he's also destroying the international order in terms of our alliances with NATO and the stabilizing force that has existed because of that. Now, I'm not, I'm by no means a huge fan of the existing international order any more than I'm a huge fan of our domestic order. There's way too much of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. Favor goes to the powerful in way too many ways. We spend our tax dollars to support the rich getting richer. We're so stingy about money going to causes that generate any sort of equality. So I'm not by any means saying that the status quo is how things should be. But Donald Trump, most of what he does is carrying us backward, not forward. I mean, one of the most ridiculous things he said just yesterday at Davos, Switzerland, was ridiculing all the efforts for renewable energy. He said something ridiculous like China makes its windmills and wind turbines and sells them to the stupid people who will buy them, but they don't use that technology themselves. What are you talking about? China is so far ahead of us in terms of renewable energy, while Trump is championing coal. Now, is coal going to carry us into the future? Absolutely not. But It's not about Trump, it's about we the people. It's not about Trump, it's about his base. And I'm really wondering how slavishly, stupidly, mutely loyal is his base going to remain to Trump? Even in the light of these ridiculous statements he's making, like claiming the right to the territory that by treaties that we have signed. He says, "Oh, there's no documentation that gives Denmark the right to Greenland." There's tons of it. So it's a bald lie. It's a bald untruth. And this is an ally. He says, "Oh, NATO doesn't do anything for us." NATO came to our defense after 9/11, including Denmark. So the lies are blatant, and the plain immorality is blatant. So he is not only eroding our democracy and the rule of law within the United States, he's corrupting the international alliances. And so Canada, Mark Carney spoke at Davos also, and he, as opposed to Trump, made a very intelligent speech. But what he was saying was basically, he didn't name Trump. He didn't. I don't think he even specified the United States, but he made it clear we can't depend on the United States anymore. It's become unreliable. We have to come up with other ways to protect our interests. So Canada is in the process of distancing itself from the US, which means that the US is going to be less influential, less powerful in the world. Europe is doing the same. So again, this isn't about Trump. This is about idiot, stupid us who put him back into office. And it's only us, US, the citizens of the United States, who are ever going to be able to rein this maniac in. But there has to be a voice. There has to be courage. And so far, I don't know how much of it is stupidity. I empathize with those who may be in MAGA because, they're in a community where it's all MAGA, and they've seen other people speak out and get attacked and get ostracized, maybe lose their jobs, maybe lose their businesses. I'm not going to downplay how difficult that must be. I understand that some of the legislators in, was it Indiana, that refused to do the redistricting that Trump wanted, they faced so much pressure, they were getting death threats and whatever, but they had the courage to stand together and to stand up for what is right. And that is what required. As many have said, if we don't fight for the democracy, if we don't fight to uphold the values and the principles, we will lose it. This will become an autocracy. And guess what? Even if the price of eggs is less, if that's at the cost of not being able to speak your mind, of having to give an oath to Trump, as you see, he's building monuments to himself everywhere. He wants to put himself on the currency. He wants to put his name on everything. If you're down for that, but I'm not, and I don't think most Americans are, and I trust that there must be at least 20%, at least 20% of those in MAGA who see how ridiculous all this is. And if they only had the courage, I don't know what it's going to take, but find yourselves another community. Find a way to separate yourself from that madness. We're in a case now that's like the emperor's new clothes, where you believe what you think you're supposed to believe, and you say what you think you're supposed to say, and that is going to destroy us. Right now, if Trump, if he shit into a bowl and he passed it around and said it was chocolate ice cream, J.D. Vance and Rubio and all these other people, they would just be lapping it up. But this is about the citizenry, and I'm hoping that we find ways to come out of this. I have TDR, Trump Derangement Syndrome. I'm proud of it. I'm so grateful for it. Um, and that's apparently for those of us who react negatively to everything Trump says. Well, what about those who slavishly agree with everything Trump says? What are they? I'd love to come up with a good nickname or an acronym for them. Now, I don't happen to have that particular skill, but I'd love for some of you if you have a good one. And I'll say, I was tempted just to call them maggots. Um, but I don't want to go that far towards dehumanizing because they're human beings. They may be pursuing a very narrow self-interest. They may, I'm afraid it's true that a lot of MAGA is based on this idea of we're superior and we deserve to rule. We deserve whatever we can get, and the rest of you don't. There's a lot of that in MAGA, and it's horrible. It's despicable. It's actually lazy. It's morally lazy, but they're human beings. So I don't want to just dismiss them as maggots, but I'd love to have something that I could just call them because it's definitely a syndrome. It's a syndrome of weakness and cowardice and intentional, willful stupidity. Stop going along with this maniac just because you elected him. And I don't know if it's all mental illness. Well, it's partly that, but Trump is not a fully developed adult. That should be obvious to anyone who just listens to what he says. Use your own brain, use your own heart, use your own experience of dealing with other human beings. Now, a lot of people are of the believe that, oh, we just dismiss the 40% of Americans who are MAGA. I don't think that's going to work. We can't have a 60-40 country. So we need some of you. We need some of you to come awake, to open your eyes, to have the guts to stand up and say, this is wrong what ICE is doing. This is wrong to be giving ever more power and wealth to those who are already ridiculously wealthy and cutting programs that help people feed their families, that help people educate their children, that help impoverished communities around the world. I'd much rather my tax dollars go to those types of causes than to just further empowering the wealthy. I'm ranting now, so I'm going to stop. But thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And those of you who are in that MAGA crowd, please open up your hearts, turn on your brains, and act. We need you.